behind me is called The True Cost of Coal. It took 3.5 years to create, and people in our collective worked on it. And
who's the collective?
The collective is the Beehive Design Collective.
Ow!
My name is Darius. So this piece was inspired by resistance to mountaintop removal coal mining in Appalachia. Appalachia is the southeastern United States. Talking about like Kentucky, Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia, that kind of mountain range that comes actually all the way up to New Brunswick if you keep going. But it's long been known as coal country, and it's where this kind of mining got started, where they just blow the tops off the mountain and use giant machines to scrape all the coal very cheaply and very quickly. And so resistance to this kind of mining is, it was inspiring people in our collective to kind of make this piece. And we started this graphic project just like we start all projects, by doing a listening tour in the community. So members of the Beehive Collective went throughout Appalachia talking to people who worked in coal mines, people who used to work in coal mines, people who are like historians and activists and academics, as well as everyday people who have been impacted by coal in one way or another, indigenous peoples, environmentalists, etc. One of the most important lessons that was gifted to us on that listening tour was from a Cherokee elder who spoke about the importance of always centering yourself in the middle of 7 generations when telling a story or making a plan, right? Learning from the last 3 generations while you're in the middle there and thinking about the next 3 generations to come. And so because of that teaching, we designed this as a winding timeline from a pre-colonial past through colonialism and industrialization, leading to some very important labor struggles and worker uprisings and victories, moving our way into like the present day realities of environmental disasters, cycles of addiction and poverty, community displacement, overconsumption, and looming climate crisis. Then we move through all of the ways that communities are organizing together and standing up for their rights and fighting back to get to that hopeful future on this side. So it's past to future. Along the bottom are stories of people, then it's stories of groups of people, communities, society, and at the top are the big picture economic and political issues of the era. So it's a grid, past to future, micro to macro. And now that you know that grid, I want you each to pick at least one animal or insect or scene and tell me what you think is being represented. You too.
All right.
Just 'cause you're filming doesn't mean you get out of it.
All right. I pick a dog.
Which dog you picking?
Oh, I don't know. The one that was just drinking water. Okay. I don't know. Where is the dog? Is there a dog? There's got to be a dog.
We have a dog here. Tell me about that dog.
Oh, dogged language.
Well, that's the past, isn't it?
That is in the past.
Amanda holding the trophy.
That dog lighting a cannon?
Lighting the cannon.
What's up with that dog? What's up, dog?
Dogs do like treaties.
Tearing the treaty. So this dog is tearing up the treaty and lighting the cannon.
Dogs usually like treats, not the treaty though.
Here we're talking about the forced removal of the Cherokee people from their lands in Appalachia.
Oh my God! Did you mean to put a bull beside the cannon for the cannon?
Everything is very.
The papal bulls.
Everything is very intentional.
And canon law with the ecclesiastical law. Yeah, is that what that scene was meant to be, or it just worked out that way?
It maybe it just worked out that way. We'll see.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant.
People marched from San Francisco all the way to Washington D.C., connecting with communities along the way. And so here we're talking about, we have Wolf Clan, Deer Clan, Bear Clan. We even have a Zapatista snail to show the internationalism of indigenous movements uniting and allying with each other to support each other's struggles for decolonization and re-indigenization. And so this is a wampum, which is like original kind of treaties, right? So the bear is sharing this treaty, and treaties existed between indigenous nations before settlers came here from overseas as well, right? It's not just the treaties between Europeans and indigenous people. And so here they're kind of making agreements to support each other's struggles. And this one, the fawn that you mentioned, is actually like doing independent media to kind of like document this really important moment, because often we have to do our own independent media and documentation when we're doing our movements, right? So,
And the Wi-Fi.
well, yeah, that's it's also kind of an indie media logo, which was a big like international independent media network.
Of self-publishing websites.
Self-publishing
so before
websites that
blogs were a
used to
big
exist.
thing, independent media allowed people to kind of become the news and write articles and self-publish it to websites.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you can see they're tearing down the federal property fence to move to this hopeful future.
Who is that? The goose? Is that a crane? What is it? It's a turtle.
There's a turtle
and
here.
then there's a wolf.
So, our story begins with the creation of coal in the ancient marshlands and the forests of old. The plants that lived there never got to decay. Instead, their carbon got buried away. The original peoples, they lived with the land. They took from it too, but they worked it by hand. This method did limit how much they could take, which worked out much better for everyone's sake. Then the colonists came, bringing their baggage. They brought disease too and did lots of damage. Treaties were signed by the Cherokee chiefs to keep land for their nation to live on in peace. And although the U.S. signed those treaties before, the settlers were greedy, they still wanted more. The treaties they tore, people's rights they ignored. Well, the Cherokee Phoenix would report and record. So this salamander here is carrying a copy of the Cherokee Phoenix, a bilingual newspaper written in both English and Cherokee. The Cherokee language was an oral language up until that era, but a famous Cherokee man named Sequoyah invented a syllabary with his daughter and spread this syllabary throughout Cherokee communities, using this newspaper to organize the communities against forced removal. And within only a few months of this newspaper being spread throughout the communities, the Cherokee people became the most literate people in all of Appalachia. They petitioned, protested, and sued in the courts, but the U.S. president removed them by force. They walked through the winter with so little food. Many died on the journey. They cried as they moved. So here we're talking about the Trail of Tears. Have any of you heard of the Trail of Tears or know anything about it? So it's one of the most genocidal acts that was ever, like debated and then voted on and then put into force by U.S. Congress. And it was contentious. It passed by only 5 votes out of 200 or so votes that were deciding the fate of the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Seminole, and many other nations that lived to the east of the Mississippi River. So the Indian Removal Act forced Native people who lived in the east to move west to Oklahoma, which is going to be the new Indian country. Obviously, people fought as hard as they could to resist that. Some people found ways to evade and assimilate into settler societies and found jobs in mines and just kind of like stayed in the mountains of Appalachia. But by and large, most communities were forced out at gunpoint at the onset of winter. So here you can see the emaciated mountain lion and cub walking through these snowflakes representing the winter that the Trail of Tears started in. The turtle that's been shot at and is injured, because they face violence along the way, and also cold-related illnesses as they walk through the winter with so little food. Tracks stretched for miles, coal, cotton, and lumber to make money piles. Wanting homes and employment, the settlers moved west and got trapped in the company towns with their debts. Workers weren't paid in money, just company scrip that they had to give back for their food and their rent. Enough was enough. The miners fought back. They picked up their guns and they launched an attack. They wore red bandanas. They shut down the mines. They went out on strike and they held picket lines. The government sided with bosses, of course, and they sent in the army to use lethal force. So here we're talking about the Battle of Blair Mountain. Is anyone familiar with the Battle of Blair Mountain? So this is a really important part of American history that's very overlooked and not taught enough. Almost everyone knows about the Civil War, but this is the second largest conflict, armed insurrection that happened in American history, second only to the Civil War. And it's when over 10,000 coal miners stopped work, picked up arms, and marched, demanding the right to unionize, demanding better conditions in the mines. And the coal mining companies responded by hiring planes and dropping bombs on them from the sky. And the U.S. government called in the National Guard to put down their uprising. So, it's an incredibly important piece of labor history, and it's where the the Mine Workers Union ended up being formed, and it inspired so many other workers to stand up for their rights as well.
What was that called again?
The Battle of Blair Mountain.
Blair Mountain.
Blair Mountain.
For the Blair Witch Project, which witch are we talking about the craft of too?
I think Blair Witch Project was, New England, but yeah, it's Blair. There was also, if we want to just talk about Blair, there's Tony Blair.
Blair.
Okay,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, wow, he'd riffed.
Yeah, we can riff a little bit, but let's get back to the story. So, workers' victories are being represented down here, right? The culture, the music, many union ballads come out of Appalachia.
Yeah.
The 8-hour workday, 8 hours for work, 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours to be free. Access to healthcare and health and safety in the mines, and even access to electricity. This light bug is plugging in the power for the party because workers who were mining all the coal to power all the big cities didn't have electricity in their own communities for decades, right?
Yep.
They had to fight for that. So, the plight of the workers would soon get much better. They sang with their union, solidarity forever. But as soon as things moved in the working man's favor, a monster appeared to replace most their labor. A continuous miner crushed coal in their lives. So the community as a whole had to get organized. They picketed and lobbied, even broke those machines. But at the movement's peak got sold out by big greens. Rather than stopping the mechanization, these green groups just pushed for a mere regulation. Mountains got destroyed even more than before. And those miners, they couldn't find work anymore. So fast forward to the 1970s, and instead of going into the mountain to take the coal out, some companies have figured out that they can cut their labor costs dramatically by just using dynamite to blow the mountain up entirely and get these giant machines to scrape all the coal out very cheap, very quick, right?
Bill's brought into the picture now.
And
with his
so-
dynamite, too.
Over 500 mountains no longer exist in Appalachia because of this kind of mining. But when it was first getting started, local people united against it, right? The workers said, we don't want this, this means way less jobs. Environmentalists said, we don't want this, this means way more destruction of mountains and more pollution in our water, etc. Entire towns were gonna have to be pushed out, right? This machine is also scraping away a whole community here with its bucket because you can't live on a mountain that doesn't exist. So everyone locally is united trying to stop this kind of mining, but large environmental NGOs that weren't based in the community saw it as an opportunity to get a quick win. And so they pressured the mining companies to meet with them and to negotiate some reforms and regulations on this new kind of mining. And when the companies, met with them and eventually agreed to some regulations and reforms, the large environmental NGOs that weren't rooted or accountable to the community declared victory and moved on, leaving people feeling very betrayed and sold out and crippling their resistance to this kind of mining. And now this kind of mining has been exported all over the world. So, the machines just got meaner and badder and bigger. The people got poorer and sadder and sicker. The coal fueled the wars and consumption and greed. The climate was changing to chaos with speed. But the rich just got richer. Coal smoke filled the skies. They made inside deals that would keep profits high. It was clear to the people who watched from below that they'd have to rise up and resist and say no. They passed out petitions, they signed with their paws. They held up the permits by studying laws. They tested the waters. The coal trucks they blocked. They made painted banners and rallied a lot. Some people resisted while others rebuilt the local economy, the soil, and the silt. They cleaned up the toxins with mushrooms and plants, built kitchens and gardens, wrote music and danced. The fences came down. First peoples reclaimed the lands they'd been missing, traditions and ways. All peoples united. The monster was dead. There's wind, sun, and currents that we use instead. Seeds to be saved, rainwater to collect. A community was built around love and respect. The people in cities kept busy and buzzing, but now they were working together on something. They built housing, collectives, made better decisions, and figured out life without coal or emissions. We all have a role when we build from below. How will you help your community grow?
Oh,
So,
yay, right for the end. Hello, darling.
one really important part of this graphic that we need to talk about is it's a timeline, right? And if you go to this side of the eastern hemlock tree, we're talking about tens of thousands of years, right? Like humanity's been on this planet for a very, very, very long time. And then if we're talking about a hopeful, regenerative, and sustainable future, right? If it's true, if we truly find a way to relate to this earth in a sustainable way, we can be here for thousands and thousands of years to come. Which means that this whole middle part that takes so much space on this graphic and also in our hearts and in our heads, this is only a few hundred years of history, right? It's a tiny blip of a chapter in humanity's story. And it can close, like all chapters and all eras eventually close, right? So we wanted to show that we can heal, that we can close this ugly chapter in our history by connecting the pre-colonial past to the hopeful, sustainable future. And so when you fold it down the middle of the two eastern hemlock trees,
Oh, yes, it's cut out.
it
Yes!
creates a new seamless image
A seamless image! Oh, spectacular.
of just the pre-colonial past and the hopeful, sustainable
my
future.
Oh,
That's
man.
spectacular. And your rap was on point.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we just turned this piece into that rhyming kids book, which we have some copies of.